are going to start today's session with a conversation with Joe Silver, CFO at Lighter Capital. Joe, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So let us get acquainted. Let us introduce you to our audience. Tell us about yourself as well as about Lighter Capital.
Sure, thank you. I've been at Lighter Capital for about 5 years now. Joined when we were about 20 people and had made about 20 million in loans, and we've been able to scale quite nicely over the last 5 years to support entrepreneurs all over the country and in the United States and now globally with a really unique financing model. I personally have worked in corporate finance and small business finance my entire career, and worked in microfinance supporting entrepreneurs for 6 years globally. In the last 7 years in the fintech U.S. small business lending space, and there's been a dramatic amount of innovation. And I think Lighter Capital has really been at the forefront of that. So it's been a very interesting space and an impactful space to be in. So Lighter Capital is not actually a fund. We're an operating company. And we have a couple funding facilities where we have lending capital to support entrepreneurs. We've raised over 200 million of capital. Most recently, we closed a facility at the end of last year with a group called HCG Fund Management, who's a private debt fund out of Raleigh, Durham. And we have fresh capital, and we want to get it to entrepreneurs out there. Over the last 8+ years, we've provided over 200 million to over 400 startups, and that's through about 700 loans. And so loan is the key word there. So we don't make equity investments, we don't make venture debt investments, a loan with a warrant, but we just make pure loans where we're due our principal and interest payment. And that is because we really want to create a model where entrepreneurs can retain their ownership, not get diluted, make their own decisions, and grow their company. We believe that entrepreneurs should be the ones selling and developing great technology first, and then selling it, and not having to get bogged down in the financing process, which we all know is very difficult. It takes a lot of time on the equity side, of course, and then most banks just don't lend to early stage technology companies. We lend this capital through a diversified suite of products. We have a revenue-based financing product, which the company really started on, which is an interesting vehicle whereby borrowers pay us back from a fixed % of their monthly revenue. So if you have a lower month or two of revenue, you pay us a lower dollar amount. And if you're growing quickly, then that dollar amount increases over time. So it's a highly flexible product, really intended to enable growth in companies. We also provide term loans, which are relatively, standard term loans with a fixed payment structure, as well as lines of credit to help entrepreneurs with working capital needs. So we really want to come at it with different tools that we can provide to help entrepreneurs succeed and scale their businesses. We lend up to $3 million. Generally, we'll do that through multiple tranches as companies grow, and perhaps not needing all that debt on day one, but we're there for them as they grow and scale to make subsequent loans. Our average loan size is roughly $400,000. And in terms of the customers that we're helping, the vast majority are not VC backed. We generally see companies that are either bootstrapped or maybe raised a very small equity round among friends and family, and they're looking for growth capital to invest in sales and marketing and product development in their business and grow. Perhaps they want to raise equity down the road at a better valuation, or perhaps they want to keep majority ownership and continue to bootstrap it. And we're absolutely a fan of either of those strategies. We really focus on growing companies and scalability of models. And at the end of the day...
Let me ask a question, Joe.
Oh, yes.
So you said you lend up to $3 million, and the first loan is usually about $400K. What does the company need to have by way of proof points and so forth for you to start lending to that company?
So we generally size our loans off of a multiple of monthly recurring revenue. So generally 3 to 4 months. So the first criteria is you need to be generating revenue. We like to see at least 6 months of revenue, if not a bit longer. And really that's because we use revenue, primarily recurring revenue, in order to understand kind of the historical growth rate and model out the future of the company. We also look for companies with relatively high gross margins. We historically have focused on SaaS companies where that's just kind of the nature of the business model, and companies with runway. So we're really not set up to take financing risk or make a bridge loan to an equity round, but we're really interested in seeing cash flow. And so that's why we're interested in recurring revenue, and that helps us understand the company's future cash flow, which we're concerned about it, and ensuring that we'll get repaid. So beyond a healthy revenue stream and a little bit of cash runway in the bank, we're really open to all sorts of different models out there.
And aside from 6 months of recurring revenue, what is the threshold? 6 months of what MRR level do you start lending at?
So we'll go all the way down to 15K in MRR.
Okay.
Other companies are, in the 4 to 5 to 6 million. So the range is quite large, but we'll go all the way down to 15K.
Okay. And so you said 400 investments already?
Actually close to 700, and that's to
700,
about 400 companies, because we'll do multiple loans per company.
And 700 investments, these are all SaaS companies?
The vast majority. Yeah, I'd broadly say it's tech-enabled services in general. So we, venture out, but we really want to see, again, the recurring revenue, which happens naturally with SaaS.
And can you describe these 700 companies? And particularly what I'm trying to understand is, are these all these are all bootstrap companies? So are you talking about 700 bootstrap companies, or do they start with you, get somewhere, and then start raising venture capital? What are the dynamics in these 700 SaaS companies that you've invested in, or subscription-based companies, not just SaaS, but subscription-based?
The portfolio is quite broad across different business models, industries, geographies, and customer segments. Let me give you a couple examples that will show you kind of where we're seeing these models land. So one example is a company called List Reports, and they're in the real estate marketing space. We've made 9 loans to this company over about 4 years, and that's about $3 million in total over that relationship. And they have scaled only with our capital. They've grown actually about 10x from the time we started working with them, and have never taken institutional equity, venture equity, and don't plan to. So they purely are using our debt capital to scale. A different example is a company called Waggle, which actually provides a voice of the employee software. So you can take the pulse of your workforce and get to know people's sentiment. This is an interesting company. They were a very small angel-backed company when they came to Lighter Capital, and they wanted to delay raising a Series A until they could get better terms, really had better revenue profile, so they could raise at a better valuation. So we were able to make a small loan to the company. They were able to grow very nicely and then raised a $5 million Series A. And the interesting thing with that, once they got that capital, Lighter Capital, we introduced them to one of our key strategic partners, Silicon Valley Bank. And Silicon Valley Bank could put in a very large line of credit to help that company grow even further. And so that was kind of a really interesting story of using different types of capital, starting with Lighter to scale that business. And then another example, which is kind of completely different, is a group called Map Anything, and they provide field enablement software, geo mapping for sales forces. We met this company very early on in their life cycle. They had demonstrated revenue, and we provided them 3 loans over their life. They were scaling extremely quickly, growing over 300% annually, and they actually raised over $84 million in venture capital. They were later acquired for hundreds of millions of dollars by Salesforce, and now they're on the Salesforce platform. So by those 3 examples,
I think very well. So a case study we have in our program.
Good, yeah. John Stewart's a very impressive entrepreneur. So those 3 examples are just to show you we absolutely have the bootstrap folks that are growing off of Lighter Capital's investment, and then we have folks that are able to use our capital to scale significantly, raise massive amounts of equity, and go on from there.
And how does that split of the 700 investments you've made? How many follow the route of going on to venture capital? How many are continuing to bootstrap? And is there any other nuance?
So of the companies that have exited our portfolio, which is about 15%, it's split roughly half and half from that exited group of folks that have been acquired or raised further equity. Others may have refinanced us with other debt or just paid off with organic cash flows. So it really is kind of split down the middle.
Okay. And why this $3 million cap? If a company is doing well and is servicing your debt, is there not a case for continuing to work, and you have an existing relationship, you've gotten to know that company, isn't there a case for continuing to work with that company as your firm strategy?
There absolutely is, and it's right front and center on our product roadmap to continue expanding and providing larger facilities as companies grow. It's really just due to our structure and our size where we feel comfortable lending that amount of capital. But we've consistently increased that over the years, and we absolutely plan to be able to help companies as they continue to grow. Until that time, making introductions and working with our strategic partners like Silicon Valley Bank is really key to our model, so we can help companies get additional capital, whether it's debt or equity, as they scale.
Okay. Now, what is the source of the capital that you're lending? You said you have a $200 million facility that you're lending. That tells me that it's not equity that you're parceling out. Could you talk a little bit about the source of the capital that you're lending and the business model?
We have multiple lending partners right now who are large private debt funds themselves, and they focus on small business lending. They don't have the infrastructure to make the loans, underwrite and manage the loans directly. So they look for originators of loans like ourselves to do that work for them. So one of the groups is called Community Investment Management, based out of the Bay Area. And they are a social impact fund that really focuses on job creation, transparency in terms, and supporting all types of entrepreneurs. We've worked with them for about 5 years now, that's a $100 million facility. And then, like I said, we opened a second $100 million facility with a group called HCG Management, which again supports small business and consumer loan originators. And so these pots of capital are very catalytic to our growth. And our challenge is to get it in the hands of the best companies that we can find as quickly as possible.
Well, perhaps we should work together to some extent. This is very aligned, and I can understand why you guys approached us to
absolutely
to be featured. All right. Is there anything else that you want to add to what you've shared so far that I haven't asked you about?
Sure. A couple additional interesting things about our company. I would say we are international now. We actually launched very recently in Canada and closed our first loan there recently. That's a big step in the right direction for us. We've lent in about 35 states across the United States. Really, wherever an entrepreneur is, we're happy to lend to them. And going to Canada is really the next step there. And we're soon to launch in Australia as well. We have a key strategic partner in the National Australia Bank. And so they're helping us get over there. And so I think geographic expansion is really key to what we're doing. The other thing I mentioned is...
So actually, let me understand a few things that will help me gauge the international strategy. So do you meet every single entrepreneur? Somebody in the firm meets actually in person every single entrepreneur that you lend to?
Great question. That's actually what I was just going to mention. So absolutely not. We have built this company as a technology company. So everything we do through our sourcing borrowers to making loans to managing the loan portfolio is all tech enabled. And that's enabled us, that's helped us scale magnificently without meeting folks. So we'll have a couple phone calls through the process, but everything is tech enabled, quick and easy. And again, the intention is we don't want entrepreneurs spending their time talking to us and hunting for financing sources. We want them to develop and sell great technology. So folks can hook up their accounting platforms directly to us via API. We can analyze all the financial information and come back with a proposed loan in a, very quickly. It really just depends on how quickly the entrepreneur can get us the information. And again, there may or may not be a couple phone calls along the way to learn a little bit more about the business model. But we absolutely don't meet folks in person. We're really most interested in cash flows and understanding the financials. We don't make judgments based on who the management team is, who the what the technology is, and is it the right answer or not. As lenders, we're really agnostic to all those factors. We're just interested in the financials, which I think helps us get capital to many companies out there that may not be able to attract, your typical VC type of investment.
Yeah. So it's basically 6 months of a minimum 15K MRR is really the qualification criteria, and then it goes up from there.
Sure. We'll take a look at customer churn and customer concentration. Some folks are selling to small businesses, so they might have limited concentration, but maybe higher churn. Others are selling to large enterprises, so they'll have higher concentration and lower churn. And again, we'll look at that cash burn profile and try to understand that. But you're right on those starting points of the revenue profile.
All right. Very good. So, as you know, we are global. So our portfolio is 100% global and spread out. And we have U.S. is still number one for us, but I would say our number two geography is India.
And we see a lot of companies in our portfolio with a significant presence in India. We need to see some sort of an entity set up in the United States to be able to lend just by our guidelines. But if there's subsidiaries or sister entities or employees in India, we do that all the time.
All right. Very good.